Hello. In this video we're going to take a look at configuring the audio codec in PÚCA DSP. So first thing we'll do is go to the project GitHub repository, and if we go to code and then clone and copy the link, we'll go to terminal window, go to the directory you want to clone the repository into, and type in git clone and add our link. So the repository is cloned okay, and we have a local copy. So if you look in the repository in the Arduino ESP32 folder, you'll see there's a blank project setup called Codec setup. So let's go ahead and open this project. We'll just run through here what the minimum configuration is for initializing the codec and getting it set up. First thing I want to do is include the library. The next thing we want to do is we want to create an instance of the codec class. So you can call it whatever you like here. I'm just going to call it codec for this example. So we're going to add the codec initialization in our setup function. So first we'll add a begin for the serial monitor. Next we'll write codec.init. This function starts the RTC communications with the codec and initializes it. Next we'll enable the DAC and the ADC. So we'll go to DAC config here. Add 2 ones to enable the DAC and the ADC. Next we want to configure the inputs. So for this example, let's look at enabling the mic. You might want to change these settings depending on your project, if you have a line input, for example. Let's look at the output configuration also. We will write a 1 in here to enable the DAC. There's a bypass function as well if you need that. And next we'll set the sample rate. So there's 6 options in here. I'm going to choose 48 kilohertz for this project. We've enabled our mics on the input config, so let's set a gain for the mics, mic gain 50. Let's set the output volume. Again, the range is 0 to 63. And finally, we'll set the I2S config. So you set the config here to match your I2S settings in your project, depending if you're working in 16-bit, 24-bit, 32-bit. We'll also select the I2S communications format, which is MSB first. And if you need a bit more info on these settings, you can find it in the data sheet also. So this is the minimum configuration that we need to initialize the codec and set up inputs and outputs. If we take a look at the codec header file, we can see there's a list of functions in here for the class. And also there's some more advanced functionality available, including limiter and EQ functions. Let's take a look at some of these more advanced functions. First, we'll enable the mono out on the PÚCA DSP board, and let's write a 1 in here. Let's enable the limiter. So we'll enable it on both channels. This might be useful if you're working on a project and you want to, for example, try and prevent clipping on the input. So let's set the mode of the limiter as well. And we could optionally configure the attack and decay times for the limiter as well in here. So we can see if you look in our library CPP file, here's the different hold times for the limiter and attack and decay times as well, and can be set here. You might need to refer to the datasheet for values. So the datasheet can be found in the repository, also it's in the documents folder. Another thing we might want to set up is EQ. The EQs are active on the output of the codec. We'll set EQ1, the frequency range set for 80 Hertz. And we'll set it for a gain of plus 3 dB. So there's 5 bands you can set in the EQ here, so depending on what your EQ requirements are. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. In the next video we'll have a look at writing the sample piece of DSP code.